Start above the
That was
lowest
in-
paid currently. Is that in
that was in wages.
That's in the wages
Yes,
article?
sir.
Okay, as long as that's not in
Yes,
this one,
sir.
then I don't think there's an issue.
Yeah, because whether or not we went with the first wage article, which had everyone as, the same rate, then that's where you have to have the item in there regarding, a starting lieutenant pay.
Right.
If we go with the second option of wages, we already set what a probationary lieutenant's pay would be. So it would be handled either way in wage article.
I got you. Yeah, I'm good with that one.
Good, sir.
We'll keep it.
Yep,
this one?
yep.
Yes, sir. Okay. The second article was Article 11, Training and Tuition Reimbursement. That is when we were going to TA everything after our meeting. I went through it and I had them right in front of me, and I saw a reference regarding a ERP system that we no longer have. It just needed to be updated. The other item that I saw in there, because all of the training budget is actually part of the HR's budget for things like tuition reimbursement, etc. So I just put availability of funds as approved by council. There was no reason to have the language regarding what the line item was or the assigned to this line item. It just approved by council.
You good with that?
And I'm only putting the date on my side simply so that we know, because we did one and then we did the other.
Very good.
The next article is Article 14, Grievance Procedure. I know that the city attorney, you had back and forth conversations on this, and then we briefly talked about it at the last meeting, and you wanted a little more time to review it. So I just didn't know if you were comfortable with that so that we can sign off on that as well. No other changes occurred since provided 2 meetings ago. I do see right here. On 14.4, I just see that the comma's in the wrong spot, that just initial in it, that if we sign off on it, I will move the comma. So one minor change to fix.
Where's the comma?
On 14.4, the last page, if you see near the top, except to the extent provided by the Florida Arbitration Act, the comma just needs to be moved over to behind parties. And I will do that as we're speaking.
14.4.
Yeah, let me just mention something real quick.
Okay.
Give us 1 second.
Yes, sir.
That's rolling, so.
Yes, sir. You just don't see those things sometimes until it's like in front of you. Chief, you saw in the other item that they were good with everything, so we would have had everything probably inputted yesterday if we had had a work day.
Yeah, did it come back up?
It did shortly after 8 o'clock last night. It was a power outage at their data center.
We'll go ahead. Good to sign off on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The next item is Article 17, hours of work. Two things on that. I know we're working with the city attorney on the policy, but one of the things going back and forth with the city attorney's office that we made is we just kind of reworded that little bit too, is the employee shall be compensated, to make it very clear regarding this article, that when you'll have an acceptable policy 1-37, that it will state the employee shall be compensated.
Do you guys have final language for policy 1-37?
It's close.
Okay.
Just,
The only thing that I'd like to add to that is just to make it clear is the, in accordance with policy 1-37 dated. So if you guys change the policy, it's clear to any regular officer that grabs this and reads it that, hey, you guys just can't change the policy, which then, you know, becomes the rule.
Yep.
You know, they could go to the old policy, the one that's there.
So like as
Because,
written.
yeah, because if a year from now you guys change policy 1-37, a new lieutenant would get the contract and he'd say, oh, it's in accordance with policy 1-37, and he'd be looking at the new 1-37.
Yeah, the city's 1-37 happens to be the emergency pay provision, so I'm just trying to figure out, you know,
I think the easiest way is just wait till we get the policy done.
well, I was gonna say, you know,
That way we're not putting placeholders in here or any of that stuff.
Well,
We'll
the
just
other
wait
thing
and get the
too is
policy done.
we go annually to the DOT training. They put it on somewhere in the region, and every year they give us new potential language regarding reimbursement. So if we have to go in and make any changes to be compliant with FEMA regs for reimbursement, which is what this is all about, I would hate for it to have a date on there on the policy, because then that could, you know, then
Well, right,
that's-
but you understand what he's saying, right? And forgive me, John, but every time I come to these negotiations, it's with a different team, right? And so the next team's gonna be like, well, we're not gonna be beholden to what the previous team said, right? Whereas, so we write 137, it's perfectly acceptable to us the day it's written. And then 2 weeks later, y'all rewrite it, and it's not the same as it was on the date we signed the agreement. Now, we're left holding the bag, still responsible to be paid under policy 1-37. That's now totally changed the way we're compensated. So the date's the easiest way is to get it done, and we'll sign off on it, you know, and put a line in there about at the time the contract was signed or whatever, however we want to do that. But if we're going to be relying on a city policy that you guys can change without any question, we're going to want the city policy to be the one that was in effect at the time we signed the contract.
yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think we're in a tricky spot with having it be an emergency pay provision. If it was just any sort of compensation overtime, we get it. I mean, FEMA's changing every 10 minutes. You know, as John said, FDOT updates. We can't be in a position that we can't address emergency. We can't go back to the table every time we have to address a policy that's going to address our emergency response. Many of our contracts actually have a provision that says the CBA goes away in the event of emergency, and we address the emergency, and then the CBA is reinstated once we get out of the emergency. So this is a bit unique.
What I see mostly in contracts is provisions that say, in an emergency, everything goes away except the pay provisions.
Well, yeah, and here's the good news, right? Policy 1-37, even as proposed, what was on the books when you agreed to the language that isn't read here, which was just in accordance with Policy 137, has only gotten better. We have a manager who's implemented these changes that wasn't as a result of negotiations. We weren't sitting at the table, you guys going, hey, you need to pay us more during an emergency. This was a unilateral decision of our city manager to be fair to all employees, not LT, not, you know, officers, I mean, across the board. So, you know, I get that.
There's no doubt it's better.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed. The problem is we could have a new city manager tomorrow who could change 137.
Yeah.
And then we're swinging.
I guess what I'm saying is that it wasn't like, there wasn't a result of like demands of any of the union folks saying, hey, this has to.
Again, agreed, but if
Yeah.
you're gonna give it to us, we'd like to protect it, right?
I hear you.
And
I don't
it's,
know that you
and
have to give it to
obviously,
you.
obviously, if you guys, if we put in here policy 1-37 as, you know, as written on whatever date, okay. If the city a year later wants to make it better, well, that's a 5-minute MOU signing where we say, yeah, we agree to update that to the new one. But again, the basic concept of waiving our right to negotiate over any possible changes to 137, because obviously if you wanted to make it worse for us, we'd want to negotiate over it. And as it sits here, I don't necessarily know that we would have that right.
Well, right. What if you just strike? What if you just go back to the language you've already agreed to in the existing contract? I mean, that ultimately it's already said it's going to be paid in accordance with 137. It says it doesn't give you any of the new stuff that we plan on putting in, but we could just go back to the original agreement and keep
No,
it
I'm
moving.
just not comfortable on signing off on it right now. Unless we have the policy and some guarantee that if you're gonna change it, that we would have some right to say something.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, and the next city manager could come in and say that salary employees are not gonna be compensated at all.
Correct, he
So,
absolutely
but that,
could.
But that would be across
But-
the board, and then leave it for 5.
But that's exactly, you're making my argument for me. Why we need to have it as stated at the time of
So
the
it needs to
agreement.
be
But it
universal.
puts, the converse of the argument is it puts the manager in a position where it's like, he wants to do something good, but now it's, hey, if you do this, it'll forever be this way, because now it's gonna be a protected term in a CBA they're gonna hang on to.
Right, and if
it.
he wants to do something good, then that shouldn't be an issue.
Even if it's a temporary good, an easy MOU saying the contract calls for this, but this time we're gonna agree to this. Again, that's a 5-minute meeting.
We'll
Yeah,
come back to
I'm
this
just
at a
not-
later date. Okay. Article 22, same thing when we were going through. I want to be, fair, and, in 22.9, per the IUPA bargaining agreement, the detective allowance is $1,000 pro rata per year. So consistent. We don't currently have a detective lieutenant, but if we did, there again, it's consistent.
Good to go.
I was gonna say, do you see how this man dresses? You need to up it more than $1,000.
Wow, man.
Say that again?
I'm off.
I said, you see how he dresses? You need to up it
What
to
time
more
did
than
you get off this
$1,000.
morning? You
1
worked
o'clock.
last night.
Yeah,
That's all that matters.
I got off at 1 o'clock this morning.
That's why, hey, not everyone here are early birds, and
Mhm.
I was being considerate.
No, this one I get to put on him. He's the one who needed it.
Did you sleep or did you
Or
just
my
stay awake
pen's
the
out.
whole
No,
time?
I slept a little
Okay.
bit.
Is this blue or
Oh, I don't think it's blue.
no?
That's
You
blue.
work tonight,
Are you
too?
blue?
No, I'm off tonight. I'm not gonna go run dumpsters.
Okay, being optimistic, I brought Article 24. So,
Do you want to talk about it now, or do you
I would
not?
skip that, John.
Yeah.
24 and 25.
Yep.
Let's move to the next one.
yep, so the only other thing, just to,
I would skip that and let's get the last.
Okay.
Let's get the last one done. We'll come back.
gotcha. Okay. Article 26 was the recommendation by the city attorney's office to, again, be consistent across all of our bargaining units. This was 100% taken from IUPA contract.
The big changes is that is with the cannabis use, right? That's most of the big changes in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you guys got kind of off script into having your own policy, but we need to keep this consistent.
And yeah, Matt, what I was telling them last time is, for me, if you go in and you make a change, I can see what you've done. When you basically scratch through the entire current policy and then give me something completely, new, I can't see what the changes are.
Sure.
So what are the changes?
I think you hit on it. There was, for whatever reason, the policy that they had in there mentions medical marijuana use. That's never been something the city, is going to approve for folks in safety sensitive positions, right? Specifically with a firearm. So I'm not, that was the biggest obstacle. Instead of just going through and trying to amend that, what we saw was IUPA had a completely different policy. Rather than try to amend it, in a line by line, we felt that taking the IUPA agreement that covers obviously the vast majority of the police department and trying to make that the policy across the board would have been the best approach. Normally, I would have done exactly what you did and just gone through and any kind of changes like that. But the glaring one for us when this was reviewed was the medical marijuana. Maybe this came from some general employee type pension, but not pension. I'm sorry, general employee policy, but it never should have made its way into the PBALT agreement in the first place.
How far does this one go back? Do we know?
I do not. Can't be that far if it's medical marijuana.
Yeah, it can't be that far.
Let me do this. Let me just take this one last time, read it over, and
Sure.
and what we could probably do. I'm not thinking there will be a problem, and if it
Yeah.
looks good, then we'll sign it and then
That's fair.
yeah, email it to you.
You want me to sign it on my side and just give it?
Just hang tight.
Okay.
And I'll do this as soon as we're done. This is what I'll sit down in the coffee shop with and get done.
Nice. Try copper line. Good stuff.
We'll start with
I'll show you.
voluntary. So one of the things too that had been pointed out to me from speaking with the assistant city attorney is that there could have been potential issues regarding detail commander. If we go to them with our outside employment, we've spoken with Lieutenant Aiken and whatnot, and we're very comfortable that there's not going to be any change. Even if we have outside employment, the money's going to be still paid to the city, and the city's making the payment directly. I would just, we were thinking there might have been payment made directly by detail commander, so if there was, we just needed to make sure we capture that had been memorialized, that the outside vendor would make payment, but nothing changes.
But they're paying the city,
Yep.
and the city's paying.
And then the other thing too is, when we make the payment, technically it's not a separate line on the employee's, pay, but it is itemized as outside employment on their stub. So, we can leave what's strike through, or we can, take it out. Either way, it doesn't really make a difference to us.
Yeah, as long as there's a way for the guys, and I'm 99.9% sure there is,
Yeah.
to know they're gonna have pension
Oh,
contributions, what's
absolutely.
pensionable, what's not, then
Yep.
that's fine.
Yep.
Issues?
So I'm assuming you guys get 1099 for this?
No, sir.
No, sir.
It's
It's
directly
paid
on the
through the
employee's
city.
pay stub.
I don't think you need to redact that, because I think
No.
it's been the same.
Yep.
Well,
my
and the only
understanding.
question I always have in all these off-duty detail situation is, are they covered by workers' comp? If they were to be injured, is the city's workers' comp covering them? Was that,
Is that spelled out there or in the policy? Do you know if that's in the special detail policy?
because when I read the language, the second-party wages will not be considered as wages paid by the city and will therefore be excluded for purposes of calculation of overtime and shall not be factored into the average final compensation for pension purposes. That's telling me essentially that they're being treated as an independent contractor for the outside party, which
Yeah,
would
I'll-
mean workers' comp wouldn't cover it.
I can get you an answer on that. Well,
But
we'll
it's
hold
on
off
their-
and let
It's
me.
on their W-2 as wages met.
Gotcha. I'll get you an answer on that.
Okay.
We'll see how we've been treating it, and I'll let you know.
So, again, I know we're not ready to finalize. We'll start with the easy one. I know we're not,
John, can I skip the line? Just do one. I got one that I wanted to talk about. That's the pension ordinance before we get into these two, if that's cool. Wait, no, is this the duration
this-
agreement?
yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
totally
Yeah,
different.
my bad. Go ahead.
So we sat and talked after our last meeting, and we were in agreement that we would take the items regarding the retirement article, and we would reference that in the retirement plan article. So this is our current, again, not expecting you to sign this. I just wanted you to see that we did
Appreciate
confer
that.
and we
Yep.
were good with it.
Yep.
Okay.
So before we get into wages and retirement here, I wanted to show you what the draft ordinance looks like for the changes that have already been negotiated by the folks over in IUPA. You can see what happens in this draft are the three things we've kind of discussed, right? So we're trying, the consistent message has been we're trying to get away from this two-tier system, having, some folks who are pre-2011, this is how it works for them, and the folks after 2011, this is how it works for them. And I know that you guys don't have any you don't have any post-2011 guys, but that's not to say that you won't someday. So I want you to take a look at it, because what it does is really simplify, first, the average compensation across the board. It used to be that the post-2011 guys were best 5 years, and you guys pre-2011 were best 3 years average. So that takes away, you can see that significantly simplifies the definition of average comp. We don't have any of this notwithstanding stuff. It's just, here's what it means. It's 1/12 of your highest 3 years, right? Moving on to the second change, similarly, the normal retirement age, now that we are going to the 48 with 10 vested credits or 20 and out, that was a negotiated change where, again, we can remove all this notwithstanding language that created that two-tier approach to it, and we can have that uniform, this is the retirement age.
Yeah, because it's not 20 and out with the medical stipend or the drop or the COLA
I'm
for
getting-
tier 1 guys.
I'm getting to that. So this is 20 and out. This is the retirement. I understand that some of the benefits have a specific timeline. I'm going to get to one of them. The drop is actually the next section. So this uniformly says here is the normal retirement age. And the next section, which is your form of benefits, one of the benefits drop has been amended. That used to be 25. You had to have 25 years of service. I mean, it was built right into it, so it didn't relate to normal retirement. It didn't say normal retirement age. It says you don't get the drop until you're 25 years of service. What this does is it changes drop to normal retirement age, which now has a 20 and out. So in essence, for the folks who are already in your membership under PBALT, the pre-2011 guys, this would be the one that would impact those folks today, in that if they've hit their 20 and out, they don't have to wait anymore to 25.
Well, they do if they want to get a COLA and the medical stipend.
Understood. And I don't
So
have.
That's what I.
No, I get that.
Is this like a partial ordinance?
This is the ordinance that's been agreed to by IUPA. This is what they've negotiated. So the only impact that you have today, not on the medical stipend or the COLA, would be this drop coming back to, from 25, it comes back to the 20 years, because that's your normal retirement.
Right.
So,
Is this an amendment to the current pension ordinance or the pension ordinance?
well, that's obviously not the pension ordinance completely. This is just an ordinance that makes the 3 amendments that were negotiated by IUPA. So these are the 3 amendments, and we're bringing it to you, PBALT, to go ahead and ratify this change, not impacting what we're about to discuss with wages and retirement for PBALT, because, you know, it's just to show these are very straightforward, simple changes that helps bring the department together onto one even playing field.
Yeah, except it doesn't, because the tier 2 guys signed on the bottom line what theirs was, and the tier 1 guys got it pulled out from under them. They're not getting when I signed, it was also drop at normal retirement age and a 20-year retirement. Full retirement at 20. But in 2011, the city changed that. Okay? So it's not the same. Adding benefits to the tier 2 guys while the tier 1 guys are still dealing with benefits that were taken away from them, it's not the same.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, that's what you're negotiating here today. So that's going to be part of the discussion. This will just get the IUPA changes in place, which bring those tier 2 guys up, and then you're still.
Okay. There's no motivation for me to sign that. None. I don't have any tier 2 guys that are lieutenants.
Well,
and
it brings drop to normal retirement age.
It does bring drop to normal retirement age,
so there's
which is what we used to have.
And it also, you know, addresses, you know, basically everybody you supervise. I mean, every individual who is in IUPA who negotiated these changes gets their negotiated changes in an ordinance, and we can bring that on the next meeting.
Okay, again, but what does that do for the lieutenants?
You get the drop at 20 instead of 25. The only one that impacts the folks that are currently in PBALT. What I'm saying is PBALT is not going to forever be people that were pre-2011. You will start having people that would be tier 2, so it will be impactful for the folks to come behind you in the lieutenant group eventually. So bringing this tier 2 to tier 1 is, I mean, Greg, it's gonna benefit them.
The tier 2 guys, yes. It absolutely is an improvement for the tier 2 guys. There's no question about that. But there's nothing in there for the tier 1 guys, which is what all my membership is.
Today.
Correct. Today, when I'm negotiating.
Right. I'm merely stating that you have one improvement here. This is outside. This is a freebie. This is not part of a negotiation where I'm trying to get you to sign off on what you're still negotiating today. So this is implementing for the entire police, almost the entire police force.
Let's be realistic. If we signed off on this, our chances of getting any of the other pension changes we want are pretty much zero. This is our leverage.
Right. Which is what we discussed on the phone last week. This is the only leverage I have. If I sign off on them, I don't have any leverage for them to make any changes whatsoever. None.
Well, they've already agreed to these changes, so I guess I'm
Right,
misunderstanding. And I say they, meaning the city.
The city has signed off on them for IUPA.
Signed.
Right.
Right.
But the lieutenants don't get anything as a result of this.
They do.
You keep arguing that
it's not an argument.
It's a zero cost benefit. Zero.
But one that comes 5 years earlier now. I'm not saying that it's a
zero
huge
cost to the city. The city hasn't done anything.
It is a benefit, but I hear what you're saying. It is a benefit.
Okay.
It's not an argument.
So for zero cost, I'm supposed to sign off and lose all my leverage to try and get the guys. Here's what's going to happen: is all your guys are going to top out before they get to 25 years. They're going to be capped out at the 95 before they get to 25 years, and you're going to have massive turnover like we did in 2015 after the 2011 contract. Everybody's going to get there. The 95 is not high enough. The guys are not finishing their career. So let's do the negotiations, see where we end up, and then I'll see if I'll sign this. But as of right now, there's no reason for me to sign it. And it takes away any leverage I might have for getting the guys what they asked for.
Yeah, I guess I'm missing how we're leveraging an agreement that's already been agreed to between.
Because I don't think, and I'm not an attorney, but I don't think we're going to be able to manage a plan where they change pension halfway through their career or 3/4 of the way through their career. I don't know how that stands. When a guy leaves IUPA and comes to PBA, or vice versa, a guy gets demoted and goes from PBA to IUPA, two different pension plans?
It's not two different. You guys are in the same
Two
plan.
different pension, right. So then my leverage is we don't sign off on this. And now you can't have the bifurcated plan. You either can have the bifurcated plan or you can't.
Well, we could do it pending your approval, and it wouldn't be bifurcated.
Right. If I don't agree to this, right, the lieutenants don't sign off on this, can the city still make those changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pending your approval.
Right, pending my approval. But if I don't do that, what happens then? Right? If I sign off on this, I've given away that leverage.
Well, eventually we'll come to a contract before it becomes an issue. We're not going to bifurcate the plan, but eventually we'll have a contract with you as well.
Okay. And so why would I sign that now then? Let's get our contract done and then I'll sign.
Because we're just holding up it's not I guess what I'm saying is it's not a leverage point. We're just holding up the guys who have
I
already
understand
negotiated.
from your perspective it isn't. From my perspective it is a leverage point.
Okay.
All right. What we've asked for, I mean, the argument you're making is we should do this because it's good for the IUPA guys.
I'm saying it doesn't hurt you. It is good for the IUPA guys. In fact, there's one provision that would
But it does
actually-
hurt me, right?
It doesn't.
Right. It does because if we exactly what he said, right? We sign off on this. And then it goes to council and they're like, listen, we've given them a ton already. You haven't given the lieutenants anything.
They understand there's two different groups here. I'm saying that will not play a part in what you get in
I disagree with you, and that's where the disagreement is.
okay.
All right. So if we want to talk about it, that's fine. If we don't, we don't. That's up to y'all at this point.
So Article 24, wages. There's been no changes from the prior meeting. At this point in time, we've made two wage proposals, one that had a set amount and then the one that had the time and grade. That is still the only option at this time, one of those two that I have been presented with to provide to you. So,
Provided it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Next.
on the retirement plan, first thing is, again, from the duration article to this, and I just saw two, I'll fix this, in looking at this, apparently the article number has come off, so I will fix that as well. I'm not sure what happened there.
He's gonna sign it.
Huh?
I don't think he's gonna sign it.
Oh, I know, but I still, when I see an issue. So again, taking your recommendation, I took everything that was in there. Also, you know, whether today or tomorrow, whenever, you know, in that being very clear that I have placed in here, and that in year one of this agreement, that it's got the date, so then future agreements, you know, that would, you know, go away. So, because it would be part of the pension ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
No other change has been made.
Yeah, I do want to hit on the kind of the legacy language issue, because I want to make sure that we're kind of on the same page there as far as some of the stuff that was in the contract that just kind of continued in the contract. The way I've seen these, and I think we've done this pretty consistently across the board on other agreements, is once the pension modifications go in, let's say like for this one, like IUPA, right? They had 3 that they negotiated this year. This year, I think it was a 3-year deal. But once the new contract comes into place in 26, 27, we won't have those in there anymore because they've already been codified,
Exactly.
right? This is
Yep.
the result. So do you see that the same way? That like
Yeah,
once,
the easiest way to say is the current pension stays as is, except for
Exactly.
whatever we're doing this
Okay,
time.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make
Yep.
sure we're on the same page there
Yep.
because there was some confusion on our side.
Oh, and there's
Thank
always
you.
confusion by members when
I gotcha.
they see
Yeah,
that language too.
because you
they
know-
see the old contract and they
Yeah.
go, it said we got
And
that
they
and now
took
it's
it
not
out.
listed here.
But you know that I can't change the pension plan without
Right.
negotiating with. Okay.
Right.
All right. Good deal.
Yeah, and that goes back to why 25.2 being stricken, because it's in the current ordinance. Okay.
So just so I'm sure when I go back to my guys.
Yes, sir.
The first wage offer, was everybody the same? It's gone, it's off the table now?
No,
or
sir.
that is still on the table?
You've got two
Okay,
options. I
so,
can move
so
forward
basically
with
it's
either
just how
one.
we split up the money. It's-
Yes, sir.
It's the same amount of money.
Yes, sir.
Works out almost to the penny, the same amount. when we do the math.
Pretty close, sir.
Yeah, okay.
So those are the way I take it, I can offer to you either one of those two wage, proposals.
Okay. I will tell you that a 10-year wage scale for lieutenants is ridiculously long. No one will ever reach the top. If you came back with something around 3, then it may be something we would consider. But at 10 years, no way. It's an appointed position. We all do the same job. Spreading out wages over 10 years is,
I think they were trying to get some compare.
Yeah.
You got that from some of the other folks,
We
right?
did,
I think
and
that's what they're
and then
trying.
right,
looking.
and you could be, and you could conceivably be a sergeant for 10, I was
Yeah.
a sergeant for 10 years.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
conceivably be an officer for 25 if you want to
Yeah.
be,
Yep.
you know, but you're not going to be a lieutenant for 10.
So to me, is council has given me this amount of money,
Right,
you know, looking at.
right, it's,
Looking at the current tenure of lieutenants.
mhm.
I hear your point on the 10. I think it would be a little bit more reasonable on a 5. If we're gonna do a
If you-
time and grade.
If you want to bring a 5 offer, we'll look at it.
Okay. I mean, I've got you frankly scheduled for till 10.
Okay,
If you would like to take a 5-minute recess, we can discuss that offline. We'll walk across the hall.
sure.
Okay?
Are we on the call?
Yeah, you guys.
What? Left?